Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jackie and today I'm going to make a tennis bracelet using seed beads and then the little red crystal beads from the Strawberry Soiree collection from Bargain Bead Box. I think this will make a nice complementary bracelet to the collection. Plus, you know, you can stack them and do different colors, so I'm probably going to use the green as well and then see if I can find a crystal. So what I'm using first is the 4mm crystal beads. And then I've got size 8 of the Preciosa silver. And I love these beads because they look like antique silver. So they're just soft and, you know, not too shiny. And I just think they're quite pretty. Now I also have my Nymo thread. This will be size B and a size 10 beading needle. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a wingspan or 2 arms length worth of thread. So I have to do that off camera because you will see me do it on camera. Okay. This thread to me is very easy to work with. And I'm also going to cut on my magnifying light. I think that'll add a little bit more light. So it looks good. Okay, so I thread my needle. Alright, took a minute, but I finally got it on there. Okay, so to start this cuff, once you got your needle threaded, I use a tape measure. And I want to measure around the bony part of my thumb and my knuckles. That'll give me an idea of how long to make this bracelet. So you just kind of got to hold it on here and then just go around. So mine's going to be right at 8.5 inches. That'll comfortably bring the bracelet around my hand. Because basically with a cuff, you're going to slide it on so you don't have to worry about clasp or bindings or anything like that. So I'm going to bring these down just a little bit. And I'm going to start with one of the red crystals. These are just the little round 4mm that came in the box. I'm going to add a 8mm or a size 8 seed bead, another crystal, and a size 8 seed bead. Simple as that. Bring my thread down. I like to leave about 6 inches on the end. And then I'm going to bring my needle back up through the beads. Just like so, to make a circle. Then I like to just do a quick knot here. And I like to do a square knot, keeps it from, you know, coming out. You don't have to tie it too tight, but, you know, just enough to secure it. Then I'm going to go back up this bead through this crystal. So actually I want these on the side. Okay, can you see that? So next I'm going to add a size 8, a 4mm, and another size 8. I'm going to go up this last 4mm, just like so. Then I'm going to go through the size 8 and back down the 4mm. Now to keep these tight and in place, I like to go ahead and go one more round or just go around one more time. And that's just to make sure that, you know, they don't come apart and get loosened up. So I'm going to go through one more time. Catch it on the side. And back down. Okay, so we see the start of the bracelet coming together. So I'm going to do it again. So this time where it's coming out this way, I'm going to go down. Just like so. And then I'm going to go around again. And sometimes, you know, as long as it'll allow me, I can go through 2 beads at a time. You just got to pull it tight whenever you're done. So it's going to get tightened even further. So I'm about halfway through my bracelet. And so you see it's just coming along fine. So I'm just weaving in the beads until I get to, for me, 8.5 inches, and you know, to whatever length you need. Now you may notice it is a little bit loose, so we are going to tighten that up a little bit more in the near future. But I just wanted to show you, you know, an idea of what it's starting to look like. 2. 3. Always pull slowly, just so you don't tangle up your thread. I'm really bad about catching it on my bead board, but it sticks past the table just a little bit. All right, so keep going till you get to the end, and I'll be back. Now, at some point, you're starting to get low on thread, and you still got a ways to go. So I'm going to show you how to tie off your thread. So on this end, I'm coming up out of this bead. Make sure you're coming out of one of the 4 millimeters. I'm going to go down these 2, so I'm just going to back up a little bit. I'm going to tie 2 half hitch knots here, so I'm going to go through and slowly and then back up through the loop. So that's 1. Pull slow and go back up through the loop. That's 2. And then I'm going to go up this bead and down this bead. And I'm just going to leave my tail thread for a second. And I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to do 2 arm loads or a wingspan. I do like to flatten the end of my pliers. Flatten the end of my thread, I mean, not my pliers. With my pliers. Okay, and finding the end. And okay, now I got it. Okay. And next I'm going to come up through the one that I exited out of. And I'm just going to hold that with my fingers, and I'm going to go through here and down. And always pull slowly so you don't pull your thread out. And then I'm going to, in this thread bridge right here between these 2 beads, I'm going to tie a double half hitch knot. So I'm just going to pull slowly. And I realize it's coming on the other end, so I got to pull that way. Okay, and come up through the thread. And gently pull it closed. And then I'm going to tie another one in the same spot. And I do two because once you tie two, then it becomes pretty secure. So you don't have to worry about it. So you just pull slowly. And see, the thread is just right. Okay, then I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to go back down this way. And now my thread is in place to continue. So I'm going to trim here. And continue on. I'm almost there. Let's see how much I've got. 7.5, so I only need 1 more inch. And 1 more inch is about 6 beads, 6 of the 4mm. So meet you back here as soon as I'm done. Okay, I've just reached 8.5 inches on my bracelet. Now, when you pull it, you're going to find there's just a little bit of looseness to it, which is normal. So what I'm going to do is the next row, I'm going to be tightening it up. So what I want to do here is I want to add 1 more for good measure. That way it'll come out even whenever I tighten it up. So I'm just going to add 1 more here. Again, I go 1. That can loosen up sometimes. Just got to work with it. 2. 3. 4. Okay, and then to make it round, I'm going to bring the ends together, making sure everything is even here. And I'm going to go up this one. That's 1. 2. Bring them together. And then back up this one. So 3. And 4. Okay, so I'm going to pull a little bit, and so the cuff is together. Okay, so I just came out of my red bead here, the 4mm, so I'm going to tie 2 half-inch knots, or half-hitch knots, right here in this thread bridge. The reason I do that is just to keep the bracelet from coming apart if the thread ever broke anywhere. So that's just extra security. And then I'm going to go through this size 8 bead. And now I'm going to tighten up the bracelet, because right now it looks pretty huge. And it does fit loosely over my hand, but I'm going to tighten it up so it's sturdy. So I'm going to add a size 8, and I'm going to go into the next 8. And I'm just going to add a size 8 in between each of the size 8s on the edge. Okay, so it adds a little bit of a scallop, which looks nice, but also gives that tennis bracelet look. So when you do this, it kind of tightens it up, and that's why I add the extra row on the end, you know, before I close it, is just to make up for, you know, the shrinkage. There's going to be a little bit, but it's expected. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead all the way around, and I'll meet you back here when I get finished. All right, so I'm finishing up my row. So I've got 1/8 in between each one, so you're going to go through the last bead here. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go through the next 2 beads here. So this will be like the up bead and then the down bead. So I'm just going to go through that. I'm going to make sure that everything is pulled together nice and neatly. You can't really do it too tight because, you know, they just kind of stop with each other. And I'm going to do a half hitch knot in between the threads right here. So I'm going to pull slowly. And I'm going to do 2 half hitch knots here. And of course the reason I'm doing that is just to make sure the bracelet is secure. Okay, perfect, just like that. And then I'm going to go up through the 4mm slowly. Then I'm going to go through the next bead, and I flip my work. I like to work this way around. That's easiest for me. If you like to go down, you can do that too. All right, so I got my thread where I want it, and now I'm going to add an 8/0 in between each of these. So I'm going to keep going. And each time you pull the thread, just make sure everything is snug and together. Just like so. You know, you can feel it with your hands, you know, when everything feels even and nice together. So it even looks good. So I'm going to keep going around until I get to the end, and I'll meet you back here. So I've reached the end, and I'm adding on the last bead, and I'm going to go up through that one and then down to the lower bead. So up through 2 and down through the lower bead. Okay, so your bracelet, you can feel it, make sure everything feels even, you know, and tight enough. And then add your half hitch knots in between the threads of these 2 beads. It also helps to hide the thread. So you just do that. Okay. I'm happy with that. So since you added on the 1 extra bead, it makes it just perfect in size. You know, that way it's not too outrageously big like it was, but it'll still fit over my wrist nicely. Okay, so we'll be right back with the next step. Okay. And then I'm just gonna go loop around 1 time just to make sure my thread doesn't come out at some point. And if your thread starts getting old, just pull slowly. It'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to trim that thread. Okay, so I've already tied this one off, so I'm just going to go through a few beads and then loop it around and trim it. Just mainly to get it out of the way. Okay, and sometimes you just gotta carefully go through. And I don't have a lot of thread left on this end, which is why you want to leave 6 to 8 inches. You know, a little bit longer sometimes if you feel you need that room. But I'm just going to loop this back around. And it came off the needle, so of course I'm going to thread it back on. So let's see which way I'm going. Going that way. Okay. Once you're satisfied with where you're at and it feels a little bit tight in there, that means that you're in good shape. So then the bracelet, is at a good point where now you'll have to work with it just a little bit, but once the bracelet just slides over your wrist, and you got to work with it, but once it's on, the beauty of it is you can't feel them. So see? So there you have a beautiful cuff bracelet. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your comments down below. May creativity be your guide.